we back again. We got more stuff to talk about.
Right. Today, I'm excited
Absolutely.
about this topic.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna talk about quite a bit, but let's talk about like the myths of coaching, the myths of this whole industry of becoming successful and being better. I mean, it has become a real thing. If your timeline is anything like my timeline, it's full
Right.
because everybody got something for you. Everybody got a formula, everybody got a program, a strategy, something that you need that's gonna make your life tremendously better. And it seems oversaturated. What do you think about all of the stuff that you see?
I think it's overwhelming, and I don't know what the technical quote unquote name for it is, but I think it's when you go look at a website and then it like follows you. I don't know what it's called, but
Yeah, it's like remarketing, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. It's basically a pixel that
Right.
follows your movements. Yeah.
So for me, I get that you want to figure out what I'm doing so you can maybe figure out if I'm your ideal client. But it is
Hmm.
coming to those who are maybe trying to find that person for them. And for me, I look at my inbox, I look at LinkedIn, everybody an expert, everybody makes six figures, everybody can fix me in 5 minutes, maybe 10. And
10 at least.
maybe 10 minutes. Everybody got a plan. It could be done in what else? Testimonials. All
Hmm.
things are overwhelming. And I think it makes it very, very hard for not someone like you and I, because we are aware if we go looking for a coach, we know what exactly we know what it to look for. They
Hmm.
don't have that insight. And it you know, it makes them confused, and a confused buyer doesn't buy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is. I agree with the fact that it is overwhelming. I mean, I scroll down my timeline sometimes and I'm overwhelmed because just like anybody else, I seek help in certain things, but sometimes you just get tired of it because and unfortunately, everybody that markets pretty much uses the same formula, right? And I'm guilty of it too. I send you to a page, I send you, and I've heard people, don't send me to a page. It's kind of hard not to because if you're on social media, I mean, I can't tell you everything in a 1 minute clip.
Right.
But I always say if you're genuinely doing this because you want to help people and you have something that you've tested and you believe it can help people, then I'm all for it. If you're just doing it to make a buck and it's scammy and it's something that is not going to help nobody, you're completely lying to people in your marketing, then those are the things that just bother me. You know what I mean? Because it makes it more difficult for the person that's really looking for help to get help because they probably bought something that was completely scammy. You know what I mean? Something that promised them the world and didn't deliver. And now when they really need help and they see you or they see me or they see somebody who really has something that could help, their mindset goes back to, oh man, this is a scam, just like that other thing that I purchased or that other guy that was out here that I hadn't seen since then. So, it's a problem right now because it's a lot of stuff out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And to your point, there's already an uphill battle, right? With letting
Hmm.
you know what coaching is and really articulating the value to it, like we talked about last time. So
Hmm.
have that already being questioned, and then you have 300 people in your inbox telling you they can fix you in 10 minutes, and it only costs $25. You got some issues
Right.
when RJ or someone like me comes and we're like, oh, this costs X amount of dollars. This is no longer a pay by whatever, it's an investment, right?
Hmm.
So the language even changes. But I think just from the amount of messages, I think it's just overwhelming. So people don't do anything.
Yeah. And I'm by no means am I not saying that it is business. So I don't want anybody to be confused by that because I had somebody uh post in one of my posts post in a comment and she said something to the effect like, I love what you're saying, but why everybody gotta be selling something? You know what I mean? Why y'all just can't help people, the godly way? And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, first of all, It is business. I never want to make it seem like it's not. Do I have a heart for helping people? Yes. If I didn't feel like I could help you, would I be doing this? Absolutely not, because there's a million other things that I could be investing my time and my energy in that would probably would be easier to build business wise.
Right.
Because to get an individual to understand that I need to purchase something to help me is not an easy task. That's just to be honest. You could easily get somebody to buy a nice pair of shoes or a nice purse or a nice car or a nice jacket or vacation much easier than you can get somebody to buy a program or a course or a book or something that's going to work on them from the inside out. So if I didn't feel that I could really help people, I would be doing something else. But I will never lie to people and say that, yeah, it's help coupled with a business. So yes, I do have something to sell. I'm not going to make it scammy. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm not going to follow you all day long and trick you or anything like that. But it is business. And I think people in general have to jump that hurdle. Just because it's something that's designed to help you internally, don't look at it any different from the shoes that you bought. And we kind of talked about this last time, because like I said, you never go into a shoe store, and that's just an example of shoes or whatever, but you never go into a shoe store and say, oh my God, you guys are trying to charge me for this. You know what I mean? Like that never enters your mind. So I think we have to make sure we understand it is business, but at the same time, you as an individual, you have to be smart to look out for what I would call the warning signs.
Right. And
And it's kind of like my grandma used to say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If somebody tell you they got the program that you're gonna make $90,000 in the next 90 days, and you don't even really have to do anything, like it's probably not real. You know what I mean? And it might be that it's possible, but the way they're explaining it to you is 10 times more things behind it than what they're actually saying.
absolutely. And just to the flip side of that, right? If we're talking about helping people,
Mhm.
then doctors should be free. Dentists,
Absolutely.
mechanics should be free, right? Like
Hmm.
all of these people that help should be free, but they're not, because they are in a business to create a living for themselves and their families. So, yes, they have a heart for people. That's why they're in the business of service. But
Hmm.
time they're in the business of eating, in the business of paying rent and mortgages and buying groceries and paying for their kids, just like everybody else. So I think it causes for a shift in the way that we see help. I mean, think about that. I mean, RJ, if your car didn't start, you're not gonna be like, "Come on, mechanic, you gonna look out for me? Come on, you gonna be like, how much I owe you? What does it take to get this fixed?" I mean,
Hmm.
you were ill, you wouldn't be at the doctor like, "Hey, you gonna hook me up?" You will be like, "Hey, what do I need to do to get this, solved so I can move forward with a healthier life?" And I think people just look at it differently because they don't really understand the value of coaching.
Right.
At least that
Yeah.
I get from it. And I mean, think about this time of year, right? People,
Hmm.
coaches, or start these new goals in January. By what? Okay, today's the 6th of February. Just want to look at my little calendar here. How many people are still on the journey to meeting that goal? Most times people quit. And then they're like, well, that thing, goal, whatever it is, this process didn't work. No, the process was fine. It didn't work
Hmm.
for you because you didn't work the process, if that makes sense. And sometimes
Yeah.
people need help with that. I mean, to your point, we all need help with various aspects in our lives, and seeking out for that causes for an investment. Nothing in life is free.
Absolutely. And I always say, like, for you to get a new perspective, or okay, I think you froze. Okay, I'll edit it out.
Okay.
But for you to get a new perspective on life, or for you to get beyond where you're going, where you are currently, then yeah, it does require an investment. Because if you think about it, a lot of times we're stuck because we're seeing things in a way that's keeping us in that place.
Hmm.
Um, I did a couple of videos actually, about consistency. To me, consistency has been one of my most hardest things to accomplish in life, and probably for a lot of other people, because I can recognize areas to where I started something and I stopped. And then I look back a couple of years later, I'm like, dang, I used to do that. You know what I mean? What happened? And I noticed I wasn't consistent. And the more and more I learned about consistency and ways and strategies of how to be consistent, I had to pay for that stuff to learn it.
Right.
Whether I paid for it in courses, books, coaches, mentor, I had to pay to learn that information, and it's helped me become more consistent. But I think you need that, and you have to invest, because I had somebody say something under one of my consistency posts, and they said the key to consistency is put God first. And I'm like, I agree. As a believer, we put God first, but I don't think putting God first alone is going to make you consistent. And I say that because when it relates to coaching, if you never invest in listening to anything else other than you've just heard that one thing from that one perspective, you'll probably be stuck. Because if I ask that person, okay, well, have you put God first? And they say, well, yeah. Well, are you consistently consistent in all the things that you want to be consistent in? Well, no. Well, that means that it's got to be more than just that then. But if you just stay to yourself, you never open up to allow anybody to teach you a different way of looking at things and maybe teaching you some different strategies, you stay stuck. And so a lot of us are stuck because we can't get over the fact that, number one, I need help. Number two, help is not going to be free, just like you said, because it's not free in any other area. It's just not. That's just life. That's just what I said the other time, is that value for value. That's the world that we live in. It's no other way around that. So I think we have to jump that hurdle of saying, like, do I want to remain stuck? Do I need another perspective? Is the things that I know and the things that I'm doing, are they working? And if they're not, then just like I invest in getting my brakes fixed, or just like I invest in, a trainer at the gym, or just like I invest in my doctor when I don't feel well, I have to invest in people that can help me get beyond this particular stuck point.
Oh, 100%. And I think once people understand that, then they're able to make some different decisions. So, but I got a question for you about
coaching.
Okay. So when you think about all of the things that you've gotten in your DM with people asking questions about coaching, what was the weirdest ones that you got?
Wait a minute, that people have tried to solicit me to get coaching, or people who want coaching from me?
Answer both.
Answer both. Oh my God. Now, for people soliciting for me to get their service, oh my God, I've gotten all types of stuff from bad psychology tricks to like, are you able to make decisions for yourself? I'm like, what? Like, it's these things that we were taught way back when I did sales and marketing when I was 18 in my first network marketing business, people that are still using these psychology tactics. And I'm sure they work on people that don't know about them, but I'm just looking like, what? And, my thing is always this. I market all the time. I put what I have out there all the time because that's my responsibility to do so. But I'm not going to chase you. I'm never in anybody's inbox all day long, every day. Hey, what you doing? What happened? Do you? And for me, when you continue to just tap me in my inbox, I know that something about what you're saying, you're lying, because there's no way you're going to tell me that your program costs X amount of dollars and you make this amount of dollars per month as a coach, or as a mentor, as an expert. But you've been in my inbox for the past 2 weeks.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, because if you're really doing what you're doing, you wouldn't have time to be in my inbox, in that way. So I've had people literally like 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, just, hey, and I already told you no, because I'm not a very shade of gray when it's time to make a decision, especially about a service. If I request information for your service and we talk and you tell me what it's about, if I don't feel it, I tell you no right then. Yeah, nah, I don't think this is for me. For you to follow up with me tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, that is the most annoying thing in the world. I already said no, and I get you have to follow up, but come on, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've had tons of those, and I still have those to this day. There's one person in my inbox right now that I've already told, yeah, I'm not interested in this. And they send me a message at least once or twice a week, say, hey, I'm just checking in with you. And the other day I said, well, what are you checking in with me for? You know, because I mean, I said no 2 days ago. Like, and one of my biggest pet peeves in the world is if I tell you no, for you to come back and try to convince me otherwise, I totally feel disrespected. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's a growth thing that I need to get through. But if I definitively tell you, no, I'm good, that's not for me, and you say, but you don't understand, oh, we got a problem. I need for you to accept that. Let me come around. If I come around, you can send me information, but for you to just purposely try to sway me, that's terrible. And as far as people wanting my service, I've had people come in my inbox and say, hey, I like your content. I really need you. I really need your help. And I'm like, okay, great. We can set up a call. And I always ask the question, so you are looking to hire a coach? And the funniest response that I get is, well, I don't really have no money right now. Well, what are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? If you don't have any money, and don't get me wrong, I've been in that position where I don't have no money to invest either.
Right.
But my thing is, if you don't have any money to invest, then you have to take the things that I give that don't require money. That's the content, maybe buy a book because that's not that expensive. But if you're saying, I want your time, I want you to be personal with me on a regular basis, but I ain't got no money to give you, it's like, I don't understand the mentality when people say that. And I always reply back, so how are you looking? What exactly were you looking for me to do? So that's always interesting. And I've gotten that tons of times with people who are wholeheartedly like, hey, I need your help. And I'm like, okay, great. And I always refer you to, I have a course, $97. That's, you spent $97 on something way, that's not going to help you as far as this course would. Or, hey, I got books. I got tons of content. You watch enough of it, you might get some answers. But no, they want real personal help. But it's like, oh yeah, I ain't got no money to invest. And it's a disconnect in my mind. Because like you said, you wouldn't go to the Mercedes dealership and say, man, I really need this Mercedes. Let me get the keys to this one. Oh, I ain't got no money now. Well, why are you here? Like, what? I don't understand. So yeah, so those are some of the ones that come off the top of my head. What about you?
I've had the people like, well, I was working my job making 7 figures. You got to
Mm,
pay, and I can help you make 6 figures in 6 months.
mm.
And I'm like, doing what? Right? And
Right.
get so many, then it's in 30 days you can get your investment back, and it doesn't cost,
Mhm.
the same one like you said earlier, it doesn't call for a lot of work, simple setting up your lead gens and all of that. And I'm like, oh, okay, no. And then I get the people, hey, I've been to your website. How many people do you get to come by your website every day? I'm like, first of all, how much time do you have to go look at people's websites?
Right. Right.
On me 6 times this week. Please stop.
Mm,
So I get those, and then the weirdest one I got for someone looking for service was someone was like, well, I met them at like a conference. You know how you're always engaging with people. You're very personable when you're out, right? Because you want to get to know the audience, especially if you're speaking. You want to know what they're looking for so you can kind of tie it into your presentation. And I'm always
mhm,
the person if I'm going to speak at an event. Well, this particular time, it was somebody there, and they were talking about wanting some merchandise from the table, and I'm
mhm,
um, it's not free. That's why it's called a vending table. I had to pay to put this stuff on the table, and just pretty much saying I didn't have funds. And don't get me wrong, RJ, to your point, we all have been where we didn't have it, right? But I
Mhm.
that I'm not going to expect you to give me any merchandise for free when I know you had to pay for the vending table and electricity. You know how it works. You got to pay for all those things to run the.
Mhm.
And not to mention, I had already given some items for a raffle at the conference. So my thing is just go make sure you enter the raffle. I don't have anything
Right.
free, and nothing is free. I paid to get in, I had to pay to get here, I had to do all of those things. So I just think understanding that there's value to this service, and to understand that it's a process to getting the service is,
Absolutely.
and I think that process is overlooked many times. And I think there's sometimes the belief in having, I guess it would be a quick fix or microwave mindset where I can have this thing overnight is a mindset of some people. And I get it if that's the way you live your life, but most of us don't have, we can experience little changes day by day, but the big changes happen over time. And I don't think
Absolutely.
people are willing to invest time and sweat equity to really having those changes and experiencing what that is to have a better life.
Absolutely. And I will say this, if you are a coach or a business owner, you got a service, you got a product, you got something that you're promoting, in my opinion, being genuine is everything. And people on LinkedIn need to really hear this, because I don't know if the people on LinkedIn, if y'all all copying from the same copy and paste messages, if it's somebody selling one bulk of copy and paste messages. But if I showed you my LinkedIn inbox, every message is darn near the exact same.
Yes, it is.
It's You're saying the exact same things. And I just read the last message that was just like this one. So it doesn't feel genuine anymore. Another thing that people do is, like, people will friend you on social media, and then they'll send you an inbox message, hey, how you doing? And I'm always kind of skeptical with that, because it's kind of like, what's coming? Now, if I know you got something, but be genuine. Don't say, hey, how you doing? And when I say, I'm fine, I hope you're well. And then you say, well, where you from? So, and then I say, oh, I'm from such and such. And then your next message is, are you interested in such and such? It's like, I would rather for you to have just led with that
Right.
and just said, hey, I'm such and such. I do this. I have this. Here's a link. If you're interested, check this out. If you're not, I understand. I like your content, whatever the case may be. But the whole, like, let me try to start a conversation and pretend like this is genuine friendly, only to, like, the second or third message, I throw some out there like, do you invest in Forex trade? It's like, because what happens, even if you're not a scam, you sound like the other scammers, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And it makes you look like that. So I always tell people, be as genuine as possible. If you're gonna have a conversation with somebody, have a real conversation with them. Don't have a conversation and ask them two questions and then pitch something out the blue. If you just there to pitch something, pitch it first. Because this ain't about friendship or knowing where I'm from or how I'm doing. You don't care about that. You're trying to pitch me whatever it is you're doing. And I'm perfectly fine with you pitching, but pitch. Don't take me through, the false sense of relatable stuff. Because if you're gonna relate, go all the way. If you're gonna get me to like you, if you're gonna get me to trust you, and then show me what you do business wise, that's a process. But if you're not into that and you just want to skip those two steps and give me what it is that you do business wise, then skip those two steps. But don't fake those two steps to try to give me something that you're doing business wise, because that just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And something else I'll point out too, and my hope is that this helps a lot of people in the, who's listening, is that the investment for coaching,
Mm.
it is an investment. And my favorite thing that people have asked is, so what do I get when this is over? Now we went through the goals and all this stuff and what I'm going to do and what you're going to do. And I don't think people understand that coaching is only as good as the coachee. right?
Mm.
I can show up, I can help you with whatever it is I'm bringing to the session. But if you're not giving 100%, then I don't know what to tell you, right? I mean, it's your
Yeah.
goal. I'm here with you, providing exactly what I said I was going to. And if you're not committed to your own goal, then what?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it goes back to being very transparent and telling a person there is no magic.
Right,
Unfortunately, there is no magic. I don't snap my fingers and you become different overnight. There is a such thing as strategies, but there is no magic. And there's a big difference between magic and strategies. Magic is when somebody tells you that, you know, in 3 months, you will no longer ever be stressed ever another day in your life. That's magic.
right,
Right. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but to tell it to somebody in that way, it drastically leaves out that if you do accomplish that, and that's just an example, but if you do accomplish that, that's going to be 90 days of pure effort on your part and the person that you're working with, but it's going to be effort. Strategies require you to implement, it requires you to do something, it requires you to practice. It's no different from going to the gym. Now, yeah, you can go to the gym and work out wrong and not get any results, right?
right.
You can hire a trainer. That trainer doesn't have any magic. That trainer doesn't come in, snap their fingers, and you got a six pack in 2 weeks. No, but now that trainer, because if they did, I want to hire you immediately. Yeah, like if it is a trainer that can snap their fingers and I get a six pack in a week, call me because I can't wait. But the trainer does have strategies. They know the proper way to work out. They know what you need to be doing versus what you probably don't need to be doing. And what they do is they do drastically cut down your learning curve. They drastically cut down the time frame that it was going to take. They cut down you being hurt in the gym because you don't know what you're doing. They cut down you going through paths that's not going to produce anything. So it's value there, but it's not magic. And I think a lot of times that's the part about this whole industry that makes it cheap because people market things as magic. They market it as a miracle cure. You know, you do this, even when it comes to stuff that I really love, like the law of attraction and manifestation and alignment, we market it like magic.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's not magic. It's a principle. You got to learn how to work it. You got to learn how to tune yourself from the inside out. I work on it all the time. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not even something that you own. And when I say it's not something that you own, you know, it's not like a college degree. You don't do it for 4 years and you got it forever. It's event by event, day by day, strategy by strategy, moment by moment, working on it. But again, if we just market it as magic, then I think it turns a lot of people off.
Right. And I think, echoing everything you said, um, just looking at it from a different perspective is that the only way you don't win with a great coach is that you didn't commit to you. That's the only
Mm.
way you don't win. And you owe you, right? You made the investment. You got to show up. You have to implement, and that's the way you win. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't do that, then whose fault is that, right? And I say that because if I went outside and my BMW, brand new BMW, didn't start, I would be livid. I'm calling
Yeah.
somebody coming out to fix it. But
Right.
I don't show up to my coaching sessions and I just decide to go sleep on the couch and RJ shows up and waits for me.
Mm.
Now what?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
And that's something we should talk about as far as commitment, because I think a lot of times we want certain things, but we don't look at what comes with those things.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and I take full responsibility because I've wanted a lot of stuff in life, but when I got into it, I didn't know I had to do all of this, you know, and I don't want to make anything sound overly difficult, but I also don't want to perpetuate this mentality of, you know, it's just gonna happen for me. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, because I think we push that a little too much that it's just going to happen. I just say a prayer and it's going to happen. And I know I'm stepping on toes because people like, look, don't mess with me on that. But I truly believe, like, if you've been praying or asking for something for years and it has not happened yet, you got to start asking yourself, well, what am I doing? Am I my two favorite words, am I corresponding with it? Am I doing things that are in line with it? Or am I contradicting it? Because like I said, you can pray to lose weight all your life. But if you never look at how you're eating, if you never look at, do you exercise, if you never look at your nutritional habits, if you never do any of those things, then I'm not sure that magically you're just going to wake up one day and it's done. And what I see is that a lot of times we do have that mentality. We have that mentality of, like I said, put God first. It'll make me consistent. How? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yes, put God first, 100%, not disagreeing with that. But after you put God first, then what do you do? What strategies do you take to keep yourself on that particular path toward the thing that you say that you want? Because most of the time, that's the breakdown. We don't do anything after that.
Absolutely. I know I had a similar conversation with a client before, and typically people want to know what it's going to look like, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this, then what happens next, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you show up. You got to you have to go through the process. And I started asking people, RJ, what do you believe come first? Commitment or clarity? And
Mm.
clarity. Like, okay. And typically I challenge them every single time because RJ, even to us showing up to, have these talks, we actually had to have a conversation about committing, right? What
Mm-hmm.
day are we going to show up? How are we going to work this out? Did we know some of the things were going to show up? We've had internet issues. We've had to log off, log back on. We didn't know
All right.
things were going to happen, but you know what? We both were committed to it and we showed up. We stay the
Mm.
course. And as we do this, we get clearer on what could happen. Maybe we need to reboot our internet. All of
Mm-hmm.
we learn by committing to the process. The process only gets more clear as you commit. The more you commit, the more clear the clearer it gets. If you don't get clarity before the commitment, that's like saying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go to a conference and I know everything they're gonna say. No, you don't. You
Mm-hmm.
happen that day. But you know what? You got to be committed to what? Buy the ticket, to drive there, to catch an Uber there. All of it rides off of commitment. And I don't think people get that. They want the clarity piece, but you can't get clarity until you commit to the game. And
Mm.
if you sitting in the bleachers over here trying to tell me and RJ how to play the game, then you can't tell us because you're not in it. But if you get in it, then you can be like, oh, to your point, RJ, I didn't know it took all this, right? I mean, when I started working out with my trainer and I was going 5 o'clock in the morning, man, I was like, you mean tell me I can't eat these French fries? I
All right.
have my ice cream. I mean, those things were like, oh, so I can have it once a month, but I can't have it,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I would have known that, I don't know if I would have went because he took away all my good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Time the results were amazing, and I got clearer on how I needed to change my diet, what time I needed to go to bed, to be energized in the morning. All of those things come with committing to the process, but commitment has levels to it. If you don't just wake up 100% committed, you're committed to phase 1, and then next week it may be phase 2, but you have to commit to the development process in order to win with coaching, counseling, development, whatever that is in your life. You have to be commitment, which goes back to your point about being consistent.
I got a million things like running through my head because I don't know if I may have heard you say that before, but I don't know if I've ever processed it in the way that I just processed it.
Mm-hmm.
Commitment first,
Absolutely.
then clarity.
Yep.
But that changes everything about everything that I'm thinking about because it's like You first have to commit to the fact that I really want whatever it is that I say that I want.
Yes.
And once you commit to that, then you start stepping toward it. And the more and more you step toward it, you get more clear on, oh, I need to be doing more of this and less of that. Or I need to be doing this and not this.
Right.
It's almost like what came to mind was, and I don't know why I'm talking about a lot of spiritual today. This is where my mind is. But when people say my steps are ordered, right? But your steps can only be ordered if you commit to taking the steps.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because, and you don't have to know what steps to take before you make the commitment. Because if you make the commitment to take the steps, then you do whatever it is you know to do, however small that is, you do whatever you know to do. And the more steps you take, the more your steps are ordered, which is the clarity. The clarity is it gets clearer and clearer as I keep moving forward with my commitment. And like you said, commitment is not one time. It's day by day. I got to make this decision every single day that I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be this person.
Right.
I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go after this thing. And I may not always know what to do to go after this thing, but me making that commitment that I'm going to do it, I take a step. And I know a lot of people say, well, I'm committed, but I don't know what step to take. What do you know to do? What can you do? It could be small. You could say, well, I'm committed to starting my business. All right, great. But RJ, I don't know what steps to take. Okay, but make the commitment today. So maybe the smallest step you can take is get on your phone and get on Google and Google the type of business that you want to start. And look at all of the people out there that's doing that business and go on their website and read. Read what they do. Read how they do it. Look at the way they do it versus, I don't want to do it that way. I like the way they do that, but that don't speak to me. That's a step. And that step of a commitment may give you some inner clarity on, well, when you do it, you're not going to do that. Or when you do it, you're going to add this to it. That blew my mind, but that makes total sense to me.
Yes. When I'm in sessions, we talk about that all the time because people are like, well, I need to read a little bit more. I need to study a little bit more. I need to take like 3 more classes. I need to, and I had PhDs. Okay. Now, how much more of an expert do you need to be? And they're like, I just need a little bit more clarity. On what though? On what? You have the PhD in whatever this area is. You are the expert. So what
I got a question.
clarity are we looking for? You need.
I got a question.
I'm sorry.
Nah, you good. I got a question. So are you saying, because you just said, wait a minute. You just said, okay, there's people with PhDs, they've studied, but they're still saying, I need more clarity.
Yeah.
But the lack of understanding is you're not going to get more clarity until you're committed enough to step out.
Exactly.
That's powerful. Like you're stuck where you are until you move.
Right. You gotta step somewhere. You get all the books.
That's that. But think about how many people, myself, I've been in that spot. How many people are in that spot to where I know what's going on with me and I know I need to change it.
Right.
And I'm praying about it and I'm hoping about it and I'm pleading about it and I'm crying about it. I'm doing all of these things about it because I'm trying to find the clarity on what to do, but you haven't done anything.
Exactly.
And the step to doing something does not have to be a major step. If you're depressed, hypothetical, if you're depressed, you may be praying, get me out of this depression.
Right.
I want to not be depressed. But you got to commit to not being depressed. And your commitment is an action step, which means the smallest thing you might be able to do is to go on Amazon and find a book on antidepressant.
Right. Or
that might be the smallest thing you could do.
Or even
but that's a step.
I'm depressed. And I admit it. I got admit it to somebody. I just think that whole commitment thing, people want the clarity before the commitment, RJ, and it doesn't work.
But is it because we don't want to, like, work is such a dirty word. It's a dirty word in my mind sometimes because I think we've made work seem like it has to be drudgery and sacrifice and that's how people make work. Like I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but what I had heard about entrepreneurship was it's hard. It's gonna take everything you got, and who wants to do anything when you tell them that? You know what I mean? Like
Correct.
once you tell a person you got to sacrifice your whole life, you got to struggle, you got to die, you got to fight, and God gonna have you in the wilderness. Like, man, I'm straight. I don't want to be in no damn wilderness. I'm good. Like nobody wants to do that. So I think we have to take the mindset off of what work is. Work is just your commitment to stepping.
Exactly.
And the steps don't have to be monumental steps. They can be baby steps. But a baby step is easier to direct than a non-step.
You took my analogy when you said that. You took
Mm,
my analogy. Okay, I gotta use it anyway.
okay.
When a baby starts walking, they don't just start out walking and running. They got that Frankenstein thing going, arms out, shaking, tipping over, grabbing all your stuff, knocking it off the table, right?
Mhm.
But then what happens when they fall? They cry a little bit, get right,
Mhm.
and they're at it again,
Mm.
and then they're at it.
But that's a perfect example though, because think about it. So let's just say a baby starts walking today, like you said, that first step is like 2 or 3 steps and wipe out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you ain't used to that at all. So you took a couple of little steps and you fall, but they keep going. And watch this. The more they keep committing
Exactly.
to walking, they get more clear on, oh, if I plant my foot like this, oh, it's cool. If I turn my foot, I'm gonna fall. You know what I mean? So I gotta plant my foot like that and then plant this other one. And ooh, when I feel like I'm gonna lose my balance, I can grab on to something. But now if they stay seated,
Right.
they'll never
They're-
learn that, oh, I can
they'll
grab
take-
on to that and that. Yeah. Yeah. So they'll never learn that but they're committed. A baby is committed to walking.
Right.
And the more they walk, the better they get because how to walk and how to balance yourself becomes more clear as you keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And the other end of that is when the baby falls, nobody laughs. Nobody leaves the baby on the ground. They're not like, oh, that baby, they don't call the baby names. They be like, you could do it. You could do it. Come on, you can do it. Everybody's cheering. Why is it as adults we like, dang, I'm done? You're an infant in this process. Give yourself the opportunity to commit to learning to walk. But we don't do that. When we just lay down, give up, quit, everybody around you, like I told you it wasn't gonna work. I told you it wasn't gonna work. Could you imagine if people treat you like that? Your baby would never learn to walk, they would never learn to run, they would never learn to do anything because you never cheered them on and you told them they were a quitter, they were a loser, a failure, all those things. If we can teach our kids to commit to the process to learning to walk, why can't we use that same commitment process to achieving our goals?
And if you really think about it, I understand why we're like that because when you look at social media or when you look at the world that we live in today, everybody is faking perfect, right? Because everybody shows the best side of their life. And I'm not saying you should show all the crazy bad sides of your life, but I think what we got to understand is everybody's taking a baby step in some area of their life.
Absolutely.
Everybody. Now one person may be further than me in business, right?
Right.
But they still could be a baby in another area. Everybody is learning and growing. We're human beings. We still don't know who we are, why we here, how we got here, and where we going. We have theories on it, theories that I believe, but can't nobody prove none of it. You know what I mean? So we're still infants at being this species of being. We're still learning. But when you look at others, it seems like, well, they perfected it and I haven't. No, they're going through something. they're having to commit to something in order to get more clarity, in order to move forward. You just don't see that because they don't show that.
Right.
You know, and we see that from the top of the top. Name your most famous, most richest, most whatever. If you had knowledge of the inner workings of their life, there's something that we don't see, that they don't know, that they're trying to figure out, that they're trying to get past, or they're trying to learn about. It may not be money, they may have mastered that. You know, it may not be business, they may have mastered that, but it could be their health. It could be their children. I know people that are super wealthy, but their children are, you know, running amok, for lack of better terms. And they're trying to get clarity on, how do I help my child? Because the money ain't gonna help them. I can't throw money at this situation.
Right.
You know, so I think we have to look at each other as that we're all human.
Absolutely.
And we're all going through a very human experience. Some have progressed in areas that some others haven't progressed in. Doesn't mean they have perfected it. So I say all that to say, don't be afraid to take those committed steps, those committed small steps, because everybody that's moving forward, they're taking those steps. Everybody that's standing still are sitting back waiting on something to happen to them, versus taking small committed steps to make something happen for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very controversial statement. Commitment,
Yeah.
clarity. People get livid sometimes. I'm like, well, you let me know when you think clarity first then.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I can see it. I can see people getting upset. I mean, I think I say stuff online that people take the wrong way, they get upset. And I'm never, like I said, everything, not one thing, not some things, everything that you ever hear me talk about, it's not me necessarily teaching it, it's me confessing it. And because this is how I got it. I did it wrong, or I did it in this way, and I took a step in it, or I didn't take a step, and I learned from it. You know, I learned this in this way. And thankfully, I have the opportunity to share it. It may not be for you, but I have the opportunity to share it. And hopefully, something that I say from my experience and my journey, and me being able to help other people, something that I say can help you take yet another step.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. We can kill it right there. Jesus. That's crazy. That's something that, and I think it's something that we all got to start questioning. You know what I mean? Like that's something that I do more and more today, as I question all of the things that I've been taught and told. You know, because if they're not working for me, I have to ask myself, what's either I was told it's wrong, or I was taught wrong on how to operate in it.
Right. And here's something else I share with you. When we think about our parents and the things that they taught us, and the people in your family circle, right? They gave you what they had, but it was lessons for those times, right? And RJ, think about it. You didn't always drive a car. You rode a bike.
Mm-hmm.
So evaluate your belief systems, then you still be riding a bike right now. We evaluate our belief systems in different areas of our lives when it's beneficial for us, right? Riding a bike in the cold wouldn't be beneficial to you. So you're like, you know what? I got a driver's license. I'm about to start driving. Okay, but most people don't evaluate the other areas. It's only the ones that are quickly beneficial. So we sat down and started to assess the things that we grew up with. They might have been true for that time, not true for this era of your life. I mean, think about when we were 19, 20, we were probably hanging out to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, about 10 o'clock, we turning it down. We're like, I got to go to bed, right? 10 o'clock late. It might be 9.
I ain't even outside now. Like now, when people were like they outside at midnight, I'm like, oh, what y'all doing? Because at midnight, I'm somewhere really in the bed. Like I ain't got no desire to be in the street, like at all. But when I was 20, I'm leaving the house at midnight. Like 20, 22, 20. I'm talking about midnight. I'm just now calling people like, what's up? What we doing?
Right.
Now, you call me at midnight, I'm not answering the phone because I'm asleep. Like, absolutely.
But that's because our beliefs changed. And we have
Mm-hmm.
to evaluate the other areas of our lives in regards to our belief systems. And if they don't work, change them.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
don't. We hold on to the ones that make us comfortable. About certain things, maybe your grandparents or whomever instilled it in you. You hold on to it because they told you. Well, they told you that based on their experiences at that time. That time may not be applicable to you right now. And if that belief isn't serving you, leave it.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I'll say is that I believe we're supposed to evolve.
Right.
Like wherever I am mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, belief wise, business wise, health wise, financially, it should be an evolution from where my parents were.
Absolutely.
If it's not, then where's the growth? You know, your kids, my kids, or whatever the case may be, or the next generation, whether we have kids or not, the next generation after us, they should be better.
Absolutely.
You should have evolved. You should have taken the things that I've said to you and you should have expounded on them.
Right.
And so that's why I look at all of the things that I've been taught and told, and I'm like, if I'm still operating in it from 40 years ago, that somebody told it to me and they're getting it from somebody that told them to them 40 years prior, I'm operating off an 80 or to 100-year-old perspective.
Absolutely.
And trying to force that 100-year-old perspective to work in today's time. And I get mad when it doesn't. And it's like, not a lot of things from 100 years ago would function in today's society. Go pick something and bring it to today's society and see how well it would stand the test of time. Most things won't.
Absolutely.
You take I don't know how many years it's been since the car was invented, but if it's been 100 years, I don't know. I can't think of what year that was, but whatever year, when you take that first car and you put it on the highway right now, oh, you're going to get run over. Because I know it don't do these Charger and Challenger numbers. It don't do these Corvette numbers because y'all be out here revving engines and Hellcats. And that first car ain't going to hold up on the highway. That first car going to get ran off the road. Why? Because we've evolved.
Right. And we have to be able to do that in all areas of our lives. So
Absolutely.
Everybody that's listening, I hope this was helpful. Challenge those beliefs. If they're not working for you, change them to today's time. I mean, you want to keep a cell phone. They didn't even have a cell phone 80 years ago. You had that roller. Remember, you put your finger in there and then you got to roll it around. So if that's the case, go.
And nobody wouldn't talk to you if right now if you said, "Hey man, page me tomorrow, man. Hit me on my beeper." like people be looking at you like, "Say what? You got a beeper?" Like, I don't understand. Like, because it's not relevant for today's time. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Make perfect sense. All right. Anything you need to promote or talk about, tell people to go do, look at?
No, not yet. I hate somebody.
Okay.
I got to figure out how to put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
I just always put it on silent. I don't know if that works.
But I don't know. It looked like it stopped for a second because it said reconnecting. I don't know if but somebody called me and I think it was one of them spammers because I just hit decline. But
yeah, I'm so glad I get those all day, every day. I'm like, who are y'all? Like, why do y'all keep calling? But but as far as things to promote, I got an online course called Refuel and Recharge. Again, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you feel like, you know what, it's too much right now, and you've done all that you know to do, right? You thought about it, you prayed about it, and you feel like, but I need something. I need some strategies. I need something that I can commit to every day. And go to rjhodgesspeaks.com and check out that course. It's a video over there, a bunch of information. You can read it. If it resonates with you, take advantage of it. And yep, that's all I got.